Hello, welcome back to another How To Tuesday. Today we're talking about how to play better golf in windy conditions. Wind can be the one thing that can make those Tour Pro scores go way up more so than anything else. It can be unpredictable and it can be really challenging to play in, but I think these tips are gonna help you out today. If you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it helps me out, and it allows you to catch every one of these how-to videos. I'm doing this every week this year, so stay tuned for more. Let's get right into the video. All right, first things first, when you're playing golf, you need to know what the wind direction is at all times. Whether you're playing in windy conditions or not so windy conditions. We see Tour Pros throwing up grass before every shot. They want to know the direction for every shot. It doesn't matter if it's windy or not. So you can just basically grab some grass. An easy way to find this out is throw some grass up in the air, figure out the wind direction. If you're smoking a cigar, maybe pop the smoke up there and see which way it's blowing. But it's important to know what the wind is doing, obviously. In this shot here, we kind of got mostly back into our face. It's coming off the right just a little bit, but it's more so kind of right back at us here. Now, we have a 124-yard shot. This would typically be my gap wedge here. I can hit the gap wedge up to 130 yards. So obviously, you're gonna have to hit more club here. Now, the question is, how much is this wind gonna affect my ball? And it really just depends on a few things. Your ball flight. How high, how low you hit it. Some people have kind of a rule of thumb where they throw some grass up in the air and for every 3 yards, it's one extra club. There's all kind of theories out there. But the truth is, nobody knows. That's what makes it so unpredictable. You could get a gust of wind, you could get this or that. So there's really no way of telling exactly, but it's a little bit of a guessing game. The one thing I know for sure that we don't want to do here though, into the wind, is hit the club or the correct yardage club, but try to hit it harder. I see that happen a lot. So if 125 yards is my yardage and that's typically my gap wedge, some people say, you know what, I can hit my gap wedge 135 yards. This wind's gonna affect it 10 yards. Let me swing as hard as I can. The issue with that is the harder you swing, the more spin you're putting on the ball, the higher you're gonna hit the ball, the more it's up in the wind, the more spin that's on the ball, the more the wind wants to hold the ball up in the air for longer, and this ball could be affected 20, 30, 40, 50 yards, this thing could be affected. So, I'm sure you've heard this term before, when it's breezy, swing easy. That is the case. I'm going to talk to you about a couple shots with the wind that you don't want to swing easy with. We'll get with that later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. But for this shot, into the wind, absolutely that's the key. Swing easier. So not only am I going to club down, but I'm going to go down to the 9-iron here. Okay? For this shot, since we're into the wind, it's a little bit cold, what I'm going to do is choke down on the 9-irons. We're going 2 clubs down, choking down a little bit to make the club shorter, and we're also going to shorten our swing just a little bit. Kind of like I'll do if I'm hitting a sand wedge like 70 or 80 yards, more so like a hold off. That's what we're going to try to do with this shot here. Now the wind is hurting, but it's also kind of a little bit right to left, so we're going to aim just right of this sucker. Okay, the ball position is just going to be a hair back of center. Okay, don't jam it too far back because we're hitting down and we're going to generate more spin, but just a little bit further back than normal. We're going to hold this off. We're going to go to maybe left arm parallel to right arm parallel. See if we can get one up there. I drew it too much, but it's pretty good yardage, I think. Yep, pin high there. Drew it a little bit too much, and with that wind going a little right to left, maybe not the greatest shot in the world, but we are on the green and we have a putt. We had a plan here, much better than trying to kill my gap wedge and having it go hang up in the air and land 30, 40 yards short. So that's important. Understand your wind position. If you're into the wind, you need to take more club, swing easier, shorten that swing, ball back a little bit, and that's gonna help. All right, we're here on the 15th hole of Langston Country Club. From the white tees today, it's only playing 160 yards, which would be a 9-iron, but let's talk about the wind here for a second. This shot, we're directly downwind. Remember when I said when it's breezy, swing easy, that's not always the case? Well, that's what I was talking about with downwind shots. When you're downwind, sometimes what can happen is if you hit a lower shot, the wind can actually knock the ball down. So instead of helping you out and making your ball go further, it can actually knock it down and make it go shorter. Also, when you're downwind, it's going to take some spin off the ball, so it's really hard to hold greens when you're downwind. Another thing worth noting is when you're downwind, it's never going to help your ball as much as it would if it would hurt into the wind. So if you're hitting into the wind all day and it's about 2 clubs more, when you're downwind, usually it's going to be a little less, so maybe it's only 1 club more or 1 club less, okay, when you're downwind. So that's something to think about. So if downwind's gonna take spin off your ball, it's gonna make it harder to hold. And it could also knock your ball down if you hit a lower shot. Then you don't wanna be hitting flighted shots downwind. It's too unpredictable. So when you're downwind and it's breezy, you actually wanna swing harder. You don't wanna swing easier. Okay, so 160 yards today, this would typically be a 9-iron with no wind. But because it's downwind, some people might think, okay, I'll just smooth my 9-iron, I'll back foot it, I'll knock it down, and the wind will take it up a little bit. But like I said, we have water here. This ball could get knocked down and I could be in the water in no time. So what I'm gonna do is take one less, take my pitching wedge, and make a full swing. I'm gonna make a full swing, try to get this ball a little bit higher, let the wind take it a little bit more. The fuller swing is gonna generate a little more spin. We'll be able to hold the green a little bit more. And for me, that's the shot here. All right, 160 yards, we get the 145 club. We're gonna take a nice, full, aggressive swing at this, get it up a little bit higher in the air. Oh yeah, that's nice and high. That's got a lot of spin on it. And that's absolutely perfect, pen high. Great shot, we judged the wind perfectly. Remember, when it's breezy and it's into you, swing easy. When it's breezy and it's downwind, swing a little bit harder. All right, we're here on the 16th hole and we have a crosswind. Okay, so since it's a crosswind, it's not gonna make my ball go shorter or further. It's only gonna make it go to the right a little bit more, correct? Wrong. This is a common misconception I see within a lot of recreational golfers. They don't understand that your ball flight is gonna determine whether this ball goes shorter or longer. If you hit a draw into this wind, the wind is gonna be fighting the ball the entire time and it's gonna knock it down, it's gonna make it go a little bit shorter. If I hit a cut, okay, if I'm hitting a cut here with this left to right wind, that ball is gonna ride that wind and it's gonna go a little bit further. So depending on whether I'm hitting a draw or a cut here, I gotta figure out my club situation. So to hit this cut here, okay, I'm kind of in between yardages here, so I'll go with the pitching wedge from 150 and try to hit a little bit of a cut and let it ride the wind. Oh yeah, and that is right at the flag. That's picture perfect, little cut there. Now, let's try to hit the draw. So I'm trying to hit the draw here, it's gonna fight the wind, and now I'm going to a 9-iron here, okay? Let this thing draw, start it out a little bit further right and have it fight that wind. Oh yeah, and that wind is holding it nicely. Two really, really good shots there. And it really just depends on whether I was hitting a draw or cut. You can see the divots. This is gonna be that draw divot. This is gonna be a cut divot. So really figure out, not only is the wind helping or hurting, but is it cross at all? And even if it's kind of like helping off the left or helping off the right, it's still gonna affect it whether you're hitting a draw or cut, so keep that in mind. In closing here, I just wanna say, when you're playing golf, especially in windy conditions, you wanna stay inside of yourself. You wanna hit shots that you know you have. So if you haven't been practicing your knockdowns, haven't been practicing stingers or teeing low drivers on the range, then don't try that shot on the course when you don't have it, even if it's windy. Okay, so stay inside yourself. If you're a high ball hitter and you know you don't have a punch knockdown, just take more club when you're into the wind. Take 3 or 4. Don't be embarrassed to take 4, 5 more clubs if you have to. Play with what you have until you have time to work on these shots on the range. So I hope this video helped you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, consider hitting that like button. It really helps me out a lot. And we'll see you on the next week for another How To Tuesday.